Hi there, Dudley Brown here. I'm sitting in the headquarters in Loveland, Colorado of the National Association for Gun Rights office here. And I got to tell you right now, we're on a war footing. Our entire staff is working like cats and dogs. And frankly, we've hired another Hill staffer in Washington, D.C., largely to prepare for next Monday, which is when Congress officially comes back in session. And there's one thing on their agenda when they come back in session next week. That's gun control. Now, if you're watching this from Facebook, please tell us where you're watching it from in the comments section below. Please let us know who you are and what you think of President Trump's gun control. He's proposed a lot of things, and that's what I'm going to update you on right now. So on Sunday, President Donald Trump kind of renewed his support for a gun control deal. The quote that President Trump said was, "We are in the process of dealing with Democrats and Republicans, and there's a big package of things that's going to be put before them." Now, at any moment, the president could have a news conference and announce that. But what that really means is it's swamp speak, and that means there's a slew of gun control on its way to Congress, not just Democrats, but Republicans. And we need to do everything we can to stop it. So after you are kind of finished watching this video today, please sign up to your No Gun Control, No Deals petition. Now, I've heard that before in 26 years being a gun lobbyist for representing gun owners all around the country, that, oh, petitions don't work, they're not listening. Trust me, petitions are deathly afraid of groups of gun owners and activists who band together and prove they work as a team and get petitions delivered because it's proof that they operate as a team as opposed to just lone wolfing it. And we'll ask our guest, who I'm teasing right now, it's Congressman Thomas Massie. We're not going to bring him up quite yet, but we're going to bring him on from his district in Northern Kentucky. But we'll ask him about what he thinks about petitions. I can tell you there are a lot of people who offer petitions and then don't deliver them. They bring them out as marketing, but then don't actually deliver those petitions. And I can tell you right now in the room right next door, I have about 10 staff members who are furiously sorting through petitions so that we can deliver them next week. Now, your signed petition that you can get in the link below will put pressure on Congress and the president, letting them know that you think they should think twice about passing gun control, that it's not a good thing for the president's reelection. It's not a good thing for pro-gun members of Congress, and no pro-gun member of Congress should support any of this. So we're going to be delivering those petitions next week. Now, I'm flying out to D.C. Our two Hill staffers and registered lobbyists are there already. We have multiple staff members flying out, including Vice President of NAGR flying out next week to deliver those petitions. And we're going to try and include you on every stage of that fight and what we do and how we deliver them, who we're delivering them to. And we're also going to get you into Jerry Nadler's House Committee hearing. That's the House Judiciary Committee hearing. It was originally scheduled to take place this week. They canceled it supposedly because of the hurricane. We think they had a lot of pressure, though. We know they're going to hear a few issues, and one of them is, of course, the red flag gun confiscation issue being pushed in the House. Excuse me. Then also, we know they're going to have the universal gun registration. Another interesting thing that they've just recently come up with is what we're calling the Thought Police lifetime gun ban. It's a misdemeanor crime that you violated the Thought Police's rules, and now then if you violate those, you can no longer own a gun. This is a new gem from the Democrats in the House. There's also an assault weapons ban that are kind of still on the table and are being pushed very hard, and you can hear the drumbeat from George Soros and Bloomberg and all their people right now. They want this thing front and center, and they're demanding it all around the country with Moms Demand Action. Again, I think that sounds like a dating site. So NAGR members are really instrumental in stopping this gun control, and so So what I wanted to do is introduce my friend and frankly, the best member of the U.S. House, someone who is represented the Northern District of Kentucky since 2012 when he was elected. And that congressman is Thomas Massie. He's also chairman of the House Second Amendment Caucus and a gun person himself. I think he has another name for it, but I'll let him say that. Thomas, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dudley. Can you hear me?
You betcha.
All right. Listen, Dudley, when you get to Washington, D.C. to fight gun control next week, you're going to be busier than a double-headed woodpecker in a bucket full of worms, my friend.
Yes. In fact, my schedule already is already full, and there's a lot more to do. So, what you don't know, Thomas, because you're a little ways away from us, our Loveland office right now is like a beehive. There are people running up and down the hallway. In fact, I would be surprised if it didn't come through in our studio here. There are people running back and forth, running pieces of paper, saying, trying to schedule things, bringing new news, something that just happened on the fake news and the national media is reporting. And frankly, it's a madhouse, as you would expect.
I would expect it. I know you guys are busy, and you talked about the petitions. I want to speak to that. They do get delivered. We're accepting, I think, 300,000 petitions from NAGR at my office this week.
That's right.
And so those are going to be there when those congressmen get back. They're going to be like, what is sitting in the lobby? And it's going to be those petitions. The petitions are effective. When you all drive phone calls, oh my gosh, that really sends them over the edge. Because frankly, we don't get that many phone calls. If a congressman gets 20 phone calls in a day, they want to know what the hell just broke loose and why is everybody mad? Because typically we wouldn't get 20 on 20 different topics, but to get 20 on one topic really puts it on the radar.
Yeah. When they feel the heat, they see the light. And the only real, let's call it, weapon we have against politicians who are doing this to us is to threaten their reelection. And if you can show you're an organization that can organize broad numbers of people and you're motivated and focused on one topic, it makes it very difficult for anybody who's in a marginal district or state to vote for gun control. And that's the goal here.
Yeah, and just like some of the officers that responded there in Florida to that shooting, some of the gun groups or at least one of them is laying back. They are not, it's like, oh, I twisted my ankle. I can't make it up there to where the shooter is. And some of them one of them, I'll just say, is kind of not really engaging, not in a confrontational way, I would say. And when you get, I think confrontational methods are what need to be brought to bear in this situation because of the urgency. You can try and play nice and negotiate behind the scenes, but you're just going to get a different version of gun control if that's your approach.
Well, unfortunately, I do know that there are a number of so-called pro-gun groups who are, quotes, working behind the scenes. And I'm worried about what's coming out of the smoke-filled room, because that's how we always get gun control, is usually with the institutional gun lobby stamp of approval. And it's a half a loaf, but it's still gun control.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that we should be fighting right now. And if you want me to go into some of the proposals that are in front of us in Congress, first of all, there is something I keep hearing on social media. I hear it in the news. And this is the biggest whopper, the biggest lie. And I can tell you this from experience because I work beside of these gun grabbers in Congress. And the whopper that I hear the most is nobody wants to take your guns away. Just calm down, be quiet. Nobody wants to take your guns away. And that is the biggest lie in the world. Dudley, when they issue these red flag gun confiscations and somebody shows up at your house at 5 a.m., you think they're going to say, give us your all of your guns except for your hunting rifles? We're going to let you keep your hunting rifle. Bull crap. They are going to take all of your guns when your neighbor calls up because they don't like the Facebook post that you just put up about them or about some issue, and that's what's going to happen. So I don't want to hear nobody wants to take your guns away. You can go back and find video of Dianne Feinstein saying, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. And she's talking about the so-called assault weapons ban. The video's from '94. And what she goes on to say is, I would take them all. I would do it, but we didn't have the votes to do it. And that is, so honestly, if they wanted to be honest, what they would say is, we want to take your guns away. In fact, we want to take all of your guns away. But right now, the political reality is such that we can only get away with taking some of your guns away, so that's what we'll do. That's what they should say. But anybody who says they don't want to take your guns away is either ignorant or lying, and it's usually the latter.
It's usually the latter. Sometimes it's both, though.
It's often both. A lot of times, it's a Democrat. It's a Democrat who's registered Democrat who's trying to console their own mind because they're living in cognitive dissonance. That they voted for somebody, they put Nancy Pelosi in power, and they want to keep their guns, so they keep telling themselves they don't really want to take my guns away. It's just Dudley Brown's guns they want to take. No, when that red flag order comes down, it's not like, okay, you can keep the hunting rifle. Nope, that's not how it works.
That's right. Thomas, the odd part about all this, that they really want your guns, as you say, is I think they think right now they might be able to get some of them.
Oh yes.
They're chomping at the bit, thinking they can pass at least multiple state assault weapons ban that they haven't had in the past, and then maybe a federal. And frankly, there are a lot of Republicans who are ready to cave.
Oh, absolutely. And the Democrats who are leading this, Representative Swalwell, and I'm not going to impugn his motives. All right, I'm a member of Congress. I serve with. I want to see him. I'm going to look him in the eye on Tuesday when we're back in Congress. Actually, Monday.
Monday
so I'm
night.
not going to say. Yeah, I'm not even going to say anything mean about him. But he does want to, as part of the assault weapons ban, he wants a mandatory buyback program. Okay.
Wait a minute.
That's a euphemism for
buyback?
Gun confiscation. Yeah. Buyback. This is the one that gets me. Now, they're either lying or ignorant. They can't buy back what they didn't sell you. Now, the only guns I'm aware of. No, they didn't own my guns.
He didn't own any of these.
The government doesn't even give you the right to own those. You have the right by merely being born. You have the right to self-defense. The way our Constitution works is a list of things the government can't do to you. Now, there is an exception, and I want to point this out. There are some guns that were sold by the government that could be bought back. Eric Holder sold some guns to the Mexican cartels. If you want to have a buyback program and you want to call it a buyback program, send Eric Holder down south of the border and have him buy back those guns he sold.
I would be in favor of hiring Eric Holder to send him down to Mexico to buy back those guns from the Mexican drug cartel. I know that seems weird that I would suggest that we'd hire Eric Holder back, but I'm in favor of that.
Well, I mean, they want a buyback, and those are the only guns I'm aware of that the government sold recently. So,
well,
go get them.
No, wait. CMP, Civilian Marksmanship Program. The government owned those guns, sold them to individuals in America. We're being kind of pedantic here, but those are the only ones they own that I know of. So I have one gun. I have a Garand that fits that. Now, any of the guns you have on you right now, which I know your motto is 2 is 1 and 1 is none, right?
Right. Yeah. We got a few here in the car. Somebody's going apoplectic right now watching a congressman wheeled handguns in a Model S Tesla in the heart of coal country.
Isn't that a coal-powered car?
It is. It runs off coal when I plug it into any outlet that's not my house. My house is off the grid, but anywhere else, including D.C., it's running off of coal.
You're the greenest member of Congress.
We have constitutional carry here in Kentucky, thanks in large part to NAGR, pushing some of these legislators. They had passed it in the Senate, and they never intended to pass it in the House. In fact, I've been privy to some of those conversations, and their plan was just to let some steam off the valve by passing it in the Senate. But NAGR plugged the relief valve and kept that sucker chugging, and that locomotive made it all the way to the station, and we have constitutional carry. So I have let my...
I have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I have to interrupt you, Thomas, because you got to take some credit for that. You and Senator Paul both had an interest in passing constitutional carry. I know you helped get State Representative Savannah Maddox elected, and played a big role in that. And she was the rock star there. And truthfully, Governor Matt Bevin, he stepped forward and said, "I'll push it," and he did. I've never seen a Republican governor push a pro-gun bill the way Governor Matt Bevin did in Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, and Savannah Maddox was the hero. She's 5 foot. I think she's about 5'2", and she's intimidating, frankly. But when they said that she needed permission in order to defend herself or her family from the government, she said, "No, thank you. We need to pass constitutional carry." So I don't really recommend this because you might want to go to other states, but I let my my Kentucky gun concealed carry permit expire. So I am packing these right now with the Constitution as my permit.
True constitutional carry.
That is right.
We're obviously going to be dealing with the biggest issue and the issue du jour of every gun control group right now, which is red flag. And you mentioned it earlier, as well as did I, but later today, the young man in Loveland, Colorado, a high school student, went out shooting with his mom, is coming into our office. I get to meet him and his mom today, and I'm kind of excited to meet them because this young kid, who's a junior in high school, is a rock star, and he has the guts to stand up and say, "I was practicing a constitutional right. I'm not backing down for this. I'm not some school shooter, and the school can't play these games." You know, he had somebody rat him out. It wasn't via red flag. Red flag isn't really in effect until January, unless we stop it with a court case. But it is exactly like red flag. This is exactly what people are going to do. Call into a DA's office, say, "This guy's dangerous. He's got a gun. I think he's crazy. You should go get his guns."
Yeah, that's going to happen. But like you said, we've got proxies for what's already happening. Let me tell you what I know from my position in Congress. I've had whistleblowers from the Veterans Administration. These are employees of the Veterans Administration. Call me up and tell me, and this is a couple years ago I started finding out about this, from veterans who had their guns taken away and from the employees of the VA's office. Here's what happens, Dudley, and this is, people say, "Oh, well, the red flag laws are going to have very high thresholds and you won't get harassed, and we're going to make sure only the crazy, crazy, crazy people get their guns taken away." But here's what happens at the VA. If you're at 50% disability because you served this country, you are ready to die for this country and what it represents, which is the Constitution. That's what you swear an oath to, not the flag, not the president. So you've sworn an oath to the Constitution. You're disabled. Let's say you're 50% disabled. You go back to the VA because now you're 90% disabled. Okay, you're one of the most vulnerable populations of citizens. Okay, if you're 90% disabled, you apply for that. A doctor interviews you. The doctor says, Now, do you manage your own finances or does somebody else? I know of a veteran in Ohio. He and his wife talked to me about this because they went through an appeal process that was costly and lengthy. And in the meantime, they couldn't have any guns. But he made the mistake of saying, my wife manages our finances.
Oops.
Well, yeah, that's all it took. They started a process. You get one phone call and one letter. And the whistleblower at the VA told me he doesn't think the phone call actually happens because he's seen the transcript of how the phone call goes down, which they're supposed to write, and they just cut, copy, paste what they, they've got something they fill in that form. It's not based on the actual conversation. So anyway, long story short, the next piece of mail you get is a letter that says, under the Brady Act, you may no longer possess ammunition, a firearm. You can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't possess them, you can't be in control of one or its ammunition. So people tell me, oh, it's okay, they can go get one from a relative. No, you are a felon if you go get one from a relative once you've gone onto the Brady list. And guess this letter comes in the same envelope as we approved your disability payment. Now the veteran's stuck there with a choice. All right.
Right.
They're thinking, if I appeal my Brady designation as a prohibited person simply because my wife manages the finances, I might lose what's buying my food and my housing. Okay?
Yeah, that's not a good situation for them.
So that's how red flag walls work at the VA today. The threshold is, does your wife have the checkbook? Okay. They tried to do the same thing at the Social Security Administration, but Obama did that in his last few weeks of his administration. We were able to use the Congressional Review Act. We undid it, and the new president, President Trump, signed the Congressional Review Act and repealed, because the window of opportunity was there at the Social Security Administration, but it didn't exist at the VA, and that program goes on today. Red flag laws are bad. They're going to keep people from seeking treatment. By the way, let me be clear. It's not because you have a mental health issue at the VA it's not PTSD. It's not some, instability. It's just a man who manages the finances. That's how arbitrary these limits will be set. And it will keep people from seeking treatment.
Thomas, there was a great comment on here from a guy named Tim Shanks, and he said the U.S. government would not pass my background check in a buyback program. Yeah. Sorry, I can't release any firearms into their possession.
Well, you would have to question the mental stability of an organization that has run up $22 trillion of debt. You would have to call into question that, and they want to recognize. Well, I'm not going to go into this.
They also, another comment said, calling gun confiscation a mandatory buyback is like calling armed robbery a compelled donation.
Yeah. Imagine
I don't think so.
if I collected campaign donations that way.
Yeah. Mandatory. It's just I'm recollecting the money that I gave you, even though it was never your money in the first place.
You know what? Talking about my colleagues in Congress, some of them, they've been notorious for voting for bills they haven't read, like the Fix NICS bill that passed, and you alerted everybody. We alerted everybody that was a poison pill, and the reciprocity bill. And I said, and you guys got the word out that was a Trojan horse, that reciprocity was a Trojan horse, that they were going to strip away reciprocity and they were only going to pass Fix NICS, which is what they did. And I was telling my colleagues, Fix NICS is inside of this bill, but they hadn't read the bill. So Congress is notorious for not reading the bills. But let me tell you, it's gotten even crazier now, Dudley. We are on August recess, and congressmen, a lot of them are Republicans, have come out and announced their support for bills that haven't even been written yet. Like, that is crazy. I think we need waiting periods on legislators who want to introduce legislation, dangerous legislation.
That's one waiting period I would support. Waiting period on politicians who introduce gun control measures. They have to wait until they actually read the bill. It's been written and they've read it.
and they've got some data to show that it will do anything other than deprive people of their rights. By the way, another piece of legislation, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the show for those who are just coming in, is the Universal Gun Registry. I like they're using a euphemism calling it universal background checks. Okay, but that is the people say what, and I point out it wouldn't stop mass public shootings. Okay, these guys pass background checks or they acquire their guns illegally. Okay. And in one of the recent shootings, they're saying it was a private transfer, but they're not saying how it was transferred. It could have been a private transfer from a criminal, from somebody that's already prohibited from owning. It could have been somebody who was selling guns without a license, which is already prohibited. It could have been a straw purchase, which is already prohibited. But people say, okay, but what if it would save one life? Isn't it worth it? And you know what I say? Well, there's two things I say to that. But the main thing I say is there have been 3.5 million denials of gun purchases through the NICS background check system. The ATF, it was so obvious they quit releasing the data. They haven't released this data in like 8 years. But the last time they released the data, there were about 500,000 rejections or 250,000 rejections and only 12 prosecutions. Now, the question is, does the government really not want to prosecute illegal gun buyers? Is that the case? No, that is not the case. What the reality is, the reason there's only 12 prosecutions and out of 250,000 denials is almost all of those denials were people who should have been able to buy a gun.
They were false denials of their constitutional rights. And that's why they don't prosecute them, because there are so very few.
That is right, and some of those are domestic abuse victims, right? So would you want to tell the mom who then is able to go buy it from, let's say, her cousin? Her cousin knows her, knew her all her life, knows she needs a gun, knows she's stable, says, I'll sell you one out of my personal collection. If that's the only way that mom can get a gun and she's being stalked or she's got an abusive partner, by golly, I want her to have that outlet.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we bought into the fact this Brady system is innocuous, and even gun owners, some of them have bought into this. And I keep telling them, Brady is the cornerstone for all gun control. There is really no way to stop the quotes proliferation of guns and enact all these gun controls without the system of the Brady Act. And so if you've capitulated to that, you've basically fashioned the rope to hang you with.
That's right. And, you got to follow the money in a lot of this. One of the reasons we got saddled with the background check system is because if you remember back at the time, they were talking about suing manufacturers of guns. And I've got nothing against gun manufacturers. When somebody says that I'm bought by some gun organization, I point out I've given more money to gun manufacturers than any gun organization has given to my campaign through my purchases. And that kind of curls their hair. But one of the reasons we were saddled with with the background check system we have is it sort of absolved the manufacturer of liability at the point of sale. If the government can guarantee that this person is okay to have a gun, then it takes the responsibility off the gun manufacturer to some degree. And so that
was the reason that it was passed. National Shooting Sports Foundation was representing all the manufacturers, and most of them are just businesses. They don't really care about the issue. As long as they can sell their product, they don't care. There are very few manufacturers who are willing to truly dive in and fight. When we find them, we always want to partner with them. There's a group out of Boise, Kinetic Research Group, makes long-range rifles. They're good about it. Nemo, Seekins, there are a few of those manufacturers who have stood up and said, we don't care. We're going to stand up against gun control, but not many. Wish it weren't the case, but
you're right. Hey, by the way, if I look a little red in the face, there's two reasons. One, I'm getting hot about this issue, and I'm going to have to go back into the frying pan. The other is I've got my Tesla in dog mode. It's not really the air conditioner running. It's just the thing that keeps from cooking your dog if you leave it in the car.
Wow. I won't even comment on that. So next week on Monday, you're flying back. I'll be there. We're going to be delivering petitions. I know we're coordinating with your office to bring a lot of those petitions into the building, and we're trying ways to bring it to the president. Our hope is that President Trump will do a 180 and say, you know what, this is betraying my base, which it is, and he'll stand up against that. As the congressman said, he's those petitions really actually do mean something if they're delivered and they're focused. And we're working on that right now. In fact, if you'll click on the link in the description below this video, please sign the No Gun Control Deals petition. We will make certain those get delivered. We're doing it in a number of different ways, but we're fighting for you, and that's our job. We think right now our best count is it's hundreds of thousands. It could be in the 320,000. It's certainly a record for our organization to deliver. Congressman Massie alluded to the Social Security gun ban that Obama enacted the last final days. We delivered 97,000 petitions to the Social Security Administration in person. I actually was in the van, and we loaded the boxes. We had to have multiple people load those boxes during the comment period and submit those to the Social Security Administration. Well, this is much, much bigger than that. So we need you to sign that petition down below. Now, I want to thank Congressman Massie, who had to leave. We thank him. We'll bring him on again soon. He's a rock star for us, and as the leader of the House Second Amendment Caucus, he's always standing up on our issue, and we keep in close contact with him. But we want to thank you. I know he wants to thank all the people who are involved in this fight, as members, as petition signers, as activists, people who are commenting on this, who are sharing it. We want you to be involved. If Congressman, if you drop there for a second, if you're back, we'll bring you back up. And I'd love for you to tell our members what you think of, thank them for their activism, because I know, like me, you know what that does. There he is, or at least
absolutely.
his head.
By the way, I did overheat. My phone went into emergency mode. The Tesla will keep your dog from frying, but it won't keep your phone from shutting down if it's sitting in the sun. So anyways, great to be back. I'll leave you with this. You got to be busy next week. You need a Sherpa. You need somebody to guide you through all this horrible legislation. You can rely on NAGR to sort this out, to pick the pepper from the fly crap. They will be down in the details. Most of it's fly crap in D.C. Or horse crap. But listen to these guys. If they send you an alert, the time to respond is not the next day, it's that day. Because this stuff passes at the speed of light in Washington, D.C. I mean, they say, it'll take years to get something passed, but if the gun grabbers want it, they will pass it overnight. This is how we got the Hughes Amendment in '86. People were asleep at the wheel. NAGR didn't exist at the time. But you got to be fast. Don't sit there and think, I'll leave that in my inbox and I'll get to it tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be voting on it, and your legislators need to hear about it. So
they need the heat.
They need the heat. There are other good gun groups. There are some not so good gun groups. I'm not going to list both kinds right here, but I will just say that NAGR is one that I trust. And when I'm no longer in Congress, I'm still going to be opening Deadly's mail, because I want to know what's going on.
No. We thank you, Congressman, and we're going to bring you back in. Maybe we can try and sneak a quick one in next Wednesday, if fits both of our schedules, to give everybody an update. So make sure you sign that. And thank you very much for everybody for watching. And make sure you share this when you leave.
All right. Thanks, Dudley. Bye.